I, 45F, have been raising my son Jake, 20M, by myself since my husband died in a car crash 15 years ago. We've had a pretty normal life. I run a bakery that my husband and I started when we got married at 25, and Jake has grown up helping me there. The bakery isn't anything fancy, just a small place in a shopping center, but it's done well enough to support us and put some money aside for Jake's college. My husband left us with some life insurance money, which I invested for Jake's future. We've never been rich, but we've been comfortable. Jake is a good kid, he studies hard, helps at the bakery on weekends, and we've always been close. After his dad died, we started this tradition of Sunday movie nights. Even during his teenage years when most kids get distant, Jake would make time for those movie nights. My Aunt Helen was a big help after my husband died. She's my mom's younger sister, and since my mom lives in another state, Helen kind of stepped in as a grandmother figure for Jake. She would watch him after school when I had to work late at the bakery, and she even loaned me money once when our oven broke down and needed replacing. Her daughter Sarah, 25F, was 10 when I started babysitting her occasionally. Helen was a single mom too, so we kind of helped each other out over the years. Sarah was always a bit different from other kids. She was super smart but also manipulative. I remember when she was 12, she convinced one of her classmates to trade her new bike for Sarah's old video game console. The girl's parents were pretty upset when they found out, but Sarah had gotten the girl to write a note saying it was a fair trade, so they couldn't do much about it. Helen always laughed it off, saying Sarah was just clever with people. We didn't see much of Sarah during her teenage years. She went to college in another state and only came to family gatherings sometimes. The last time she spent any real time with us was at Helen's 60th birthday party 5 years ago. Jake was 15 then, and I remember Sarah, who was 20, spent a lot of time talking to him about college and his plans for the future. I thought it was nice that she was taking an interest in her younger cousin. 3 months ago, Sarah called me saying she'd gotten a job in marketing at a firm in our city. She needed a place to stay while looking for an apartment, and since we had a spare room, I offered to let her stay with us. I figured it was a way to pay back Helen's kindness over the years. The first month was great. Sarah helped around the house, showed interest in the bakery, and would often stay late helping me with paperwork and inventory. She said her job let her work flexible hours, so sometimes she'd be home during the day. I didn't question it because lots of companies have remote work policies now. Looking back, there were signs I should have noticed. Sarah was always around whenever Jake was home. If he was studying in the living room, she'd work there too. If he was at the bakery helping me, she'd show up with coffee or snacks. She started offering to help him study for his business classes, saying her marketing experience could be useful. Jake started acting different about 2 months after Sarah moved in. He started keeping his phone face down all the time and would leave the room to text. He missed 2 Sunday movie nights in a row, saying he had too much schoolwork. That wasn't like him at all. Even during finals week, he'd always make time for movie night. Everything came out last week when Jake asked me to check a recipe he texted me. When I opened his messages, I saw dozens of texts between him and Sarah. They'd been secretly dating for almost 2 months. The messages showed that Sarah had planned this whole thing. She hadn't randomly moved here for a job, she'd moved here specifically to pursue Jake. She'd been following all his social media accounts for months before contacting me about staying with us. The marketing job was completely made up. She'd quit her real job and was living off savings while trying to get close to Jake. She told him not to tell me about their relationship, saying I was overprotective and would overreact if I knew. When I confronted Sarah, she didn't even try to deny anything. She said she had developed feelings for Jake at Helen's birthday party 5 years ago. She'd been waiting for him to be old enough so it wouldn't seem inappropriate. According to her, there was nothing wrong with what she'd done because they were both adults now. The way she talked about waiting for Jake to be old enough really bothered me. She had basically been watching him grow up, planning to date him the whole time. She had used my gratitude toward Helen and our family connection to get close to him. The whole thing felt calculated and wrong. Jake was really confused when I showed him how long Sarah had been planning this. She had convinced him their relationship had developed naturally from spending time together. He had no idea she'd been following him online or that she'd moved here specifically for him. He thought keeping their relationship secret was just temporary until they figured out how to tell me without making things awkward. I told Sarah she needed to leave my house. That's when she got angry and showed her true personality. She said she had established residency and I couldn't legally evict her without proper notice. She threatened to tell Helen I was throwing her out on the street after everything Helen had done for us. She even suggested that I was jealous because Jake was paying attention to someone else instead of just me. I gave her written 30-day notice to leave, but by then she'd already called Helen. Now my whole family is involved. Helen calls me crying every day about how I'm being cruel to her daughter. She says Sarah has always had trouble connecting with people her own age and that she's finally found someone who understands her. She keeps bringing up all the times she helped us after my husband died, saying I owe her family more consideration. Other relatives have started taking sides too. My cousin Mark says I'm overreacting because Jake and Sarah aren't actually blood related. My sister thinks I'm just being overprotective about the age gap. My uncle Bill says I should be happy Jake found someone from a family we know instead of a stranger. Jake is getting messages from family members telling him to stand up for himself and his relationship with Sarah. Some of them are bringing up how Helen helped raise him, saying we both owe her family more loyalty. A few relatives even suggested that my reaction shows I have unhealthy attachment issues with Jake and need to let him grow up. I'm not backing down on this. Sarah manipulated her way into our home and tried to secretly date my son. She lied about having a job, lied about why she moved here, and convinced Jake to lie to me. That's not the kind of person I want him involved with, regardless of family connections. Update 1: Things have gotten much worse since my last post. Sarah moved out yesterday, but these past 2 weeks have been awful. She started telling family members that she and Jake had been sleeping together since she moved in, claiming I was trying to separate them because I couldn't handle Jake having another woman in his life. When Helen repeated these claims to me, Jake got really upset and showed me all their messages to prove nothing physical had ever happened. Their relationship had mostly been texting and a few secret meetings for coffee or lunch. The messages showed Sarah constantly pushing for more, but Jake being hesitant about moving too fast and keeping secrets from me. After Sarah moved out, I found evidence that made everything much more serious. Hidden in the guest room, I found a notebook with detailed information about our finances. She had written down our bank account numbers, information about the bakery's income, and most concerning, specific details about Jake's inheritance from his father. The bakery's security cameras showed her going through my office files late at night when she stayed to help with paperwork. She had been taking pictures of documents and accessing our computer system using my password, which she must have memorized while watching me work. She had copied information about our suppliers, costs, and daily sales figures. I also found a spreadsheet on the laptop she left behind in her hurry to move out. It had a detailed plan to convince Jake to invest his inheritance money in opening a competing bakery. She had researched locations near my shop, calculated startup costs using my suppliers' information, and even drafted business loan applications using our financial data. When I checked the browser history on her laptop, I found she'd been researching how inheritance money is handled in marriages and dividing assets after divorce. She had also looked up information about transferring business ownership between family members and forcing buyouts of family businesses. Looking through Jake's phone revealed how she had been working on him psychologically. She would casually mention how his business classes made him more qualified to run a bakery than me. She suggested that working for his mom forever wasn't ambitious enough for someone with his potential. She had been trying to create distance between us, making comments about how I was using the bakery to control his life. When I told Helen what we found, she still defended Sarah. She said Sarah was just being thorough in planning a future with Jake, and that looking into family finances was reasonable if they were getting married. She accused me of violating Sarah's privacy by looking at her laptop and said I was trying to paint Sarah as a criminal because I didn't want Jake to be independent. The family is now split into 3 groups. Some are horrified by Sarah's actions and have apologized for doubting me. Others think I'm exaggerating things to destroy Sarah's reputation because I don't want Jake growing up. A few, like Helen, are still completely defending Sarah and saying she did nothing wrong. My sister, who initially supported Sarah, now admits the situation seems predatory but thinks I should handle it privately to avoid damaging Sarah's reputation. She says Sarah is young and made mistakes but doesn't deserve to have her life ruined over this. She keeps bringing up how this could affect Helen's standing in the family. Update 2: The situation has become much more serious than just family drama. Yesterday, Jake got a call from our bank about a business loan application submitted in his name. Sarah had actually forged his signature on loan documents using the personal information she gathered while living with us. She created a fake email address pretending to be Jake and had been corresponding with the bank for weeks about the loan. We filed a police report, and that's when even more truth came out. This wasn't Sarah's first attempt at fraud. At her previous job, she had been fired for trying to open credit cards using her coworkers' personal information. Her former employer had agreed not to press charges if she left quietly, which is why we never knew about it. The police investigation revealed Sarah had nearly $50,000 in gambling debt from online casinos. She had maxed out 6 credit cards and taken loans from multiple family members. She told my Aunt Carol she needed $10,000 for emergency cancer treatment. She convinced my cousin Pete to loan her $15,000 for a fake tech startup. The worst part was that she had somehow convinced Helen to take out a second mortgage on her house, claiming she was being blackmailed over some photos. The detective told us Sarah had created a fake online identity years ago to learn about Jake's interests. She used this information to pretend they had everything in common. She had studied his social media posts about movies, music, and books, then casually brought up these same interests when talking to him. She had even started watching all his favorite shows so she could discuss them with him. She kept detailed notes about his schedule, his friends, and his activities. She had information about his college classes, his work schedule at the bakery, and even notes about conversations he had with other people. She had basically been stalking him for years while waiting for the right time to make her move. When the police questioned Sarah, she finally broke down and confessed everything. She admitted she had been planning this since seeing Jake at Helen's birthday party. Her plan was to get access to his inheritance money through marriage, then convince him to invest it in a new business that she would actually control. She figured that even if they eventually divorced, she would own half the business. Helen finally had to face the truth when the bank contacted her about the house payments being late. Sarah had been pocketing the mortgage money instead of paying the bank. Helen checked her accounts and found that Sarah had been stealing from her for years, taking small amounts that Helen hadn't noticed. She had stolen nearly $30,000 from her own mother. Update 3: Sarah took a plea deal to avoid jail time. She's on probation for 3 years and has to pay back everyone she stole from. She moved back in with Helen, who had to sell her house to pay off the second mortgage. They moved to a small apartment in another city, mainly because Helen couldn't face the family after everything that happened. Jake transferred to a business school in another state. He's still planning to take over the bakery someday, but he needed time away from all the family drama. He told me he feels stupid for not seeing through Sarah's manipulation, but I keep telling him she fooled everyone, not just him. She had been practicing this manipulation for years. Most of our relatives have apologized for doubting me, but I'm keeping my distance from everyone except the few who supported us from the beginning. Helen sends messages sometimes about missing our friendship, but I just can't get past how quickly she turned against me. My sister says I should forgive Helen because she lost everything too, but I don't think that excuses how she treated us. I made a lot of changes at the bakery. All our accounts are at a new bank, and I installed better security cameras. I have a lawyer now who handles all our business paperwork. Jake and I barely attend family events anymore. When we do go, we keep conversations short and avoid any topic related to Sarah or what happened. Some relatives say I'm being too hard on the family by staying distant, but this situation showed me who I can really trust. Sarah didn't just try to steal money, she tried to destroy my relationship with my son and turn my whole family against me. Some things you just can't forgive, even if it means losing relationships you've had for decades. The bakery is doing better than ever. Jake calls me every Sunday for our movie nights. Now we watch the same movie while video chatting. It's different from before, but we're making it work. Sometimes losing family members is the price you pay for protecting yourself and the people who truly matter to you.